The Galactic Council met in the great crystal dome that floated in space between 7 star systems. For 10,000 years, beings from across the galaxy had gathered here to keep peace among the stars. The dome was huge, big enough to hold a small moon inside it. Strange lights danced across its walls as different alien species spoke in their own languages. Today was different. Today they talked about the most important rule in the galaxy. HFY floated near the center of the dome. His body was made of living crystal that changed colors when he felt strong emotions. Right now, blue light pulsed through his form, showing his worry. He was the oldest member of the council and had seen the rise and fall of many civilizations. "The barrier holds," he announced to the hundreds of beings around him. His voice echoed through the dome in a way that every species could understand, no matter what language they spoke. Sector 7 Alpha remained sealed. A creature that looked like a giant butterfly made of starlight fluttered its wings. This was Ambassador Yelena of the Ethereal Collective. When she spoke, her voice sounded like music from a distant world. "The energy readings are stable. The humans remain unaware of our presence." Far from the council meeting, on a small blue and green planet in Sector 7 Alpha, Commander Jake Miller walked across the deck of a large spaceship floating on Earth's ocean. The ship was called the EDF Sovereign, and it was the most advanced vessel that humans had ever built. Jake did not know that compared to the ships watching his world from beyond the stars, his mighty warship was like a toy made by children. Jake looked at the reports on his computer screen. Strange energy patterns had been detected at the edge of the solar system, near where Pluto orbited the sun. Earth's best scientists said these were probably natural events, maybe caused by solar winds or cosmic radiation. Jake nodded and marked the reports as routine. He had no idea that those energy patterns came from massive alien stations hidden just outside human detection range. The stations were as large as cities, built by the most advanced races in the galaxy. They had been there for thousands of years, watching and waiting. Their job was simple but important. Make sure nobody disturbed the humans, and make sure the humans never left their solar system. Admiral Lisa Parker stood in the control room of the space station that orbited Earth. She was in charge of humanity's defense against threats from space, though she believed those threats would be asteroids or solar storms. The idea that alien civilizations existed never entered her mind. Earth's radio telescopes had been listening for signals from other worlds for decades, but they heard only silence. The silence was not natural. Every radio signal that humans sent into space was caught by the alien stations and absorbed. Every signal from other civilizations was blocked before it could reach Earth. The humans lived in a bubble of quiet, protected from the noise of a galaxy full of life. Back in the crystal dome, HFY's body shifted to a deeper blue color. "The containment field requires more energy each year," he said. "The humans grow more curious about space. Their technology advances faster than we predicted." A being that looked like a living shadow spoke from the darkness near the dome's edge. This was High Commander Vexron of the Void Dwellers, a race that lived in the empty spaces between stars. "Perhaps we should reveal ourselves. Make contact before they discover us on their own." The dome filled with sounds of disagreement. Creatures chittered, roared, and sang their protests in dozens of different ways. The idea of contact with humans was forbidden, and for good reason. "You forget the old stories," HFY said, his crystal body now glowing with red warning light. "You forget why Sector 7 Alpha was sealed in the first place." An ancient being at the far end of the dome slowly moved forward. It looked like a tree made of metal and starlight, with roots that touched the dome's floor and branches that reached toward the ceiling. This was Elder Mordoon of the First Civilization, one of the few beings old enough to remember the time before the barrier. When Elder Mordoon spoke, every other sound in the dome stopped. His voice was like the whisper of wind through old forests. "I was young when the ancients walked among the stars. I saw worlds burn under their advance. I watched civilizations fall to their strange mix of primitive technology and impossible tactics. The dome became very quiet. Even the dancing lights on the walls seemed to dim. The ancients conquered half the galaxy with ships barely capable of faster-than-light travel. Elder Morden continued. They defeated races with technology thousands of years more advanced than their own. They did not win through superior weapons or shields. They won through methods we could not understand or predict. Jake Miller finished his shift aboard the Sovereign and returned to his quarters. He looked out the window at the stars and wondered, like humans had wondered for thousands of years, if anyone else was out there. The stars looked cold and empty, giving no hint of the great civilizations that thrived beyond his sight. On the moon, Dr. Helen Rodriguez worked in a laboratory studying rock samples brought back from Mars. She was Earth's leading expert on the possibility of life elsewhere in the universe. Her computer models suggested that life should be common in the galaxy, but her radio telescopes found no proof. She did not know that her equipment was designed to find signals on frequencies that the alien races never used. The barrier around Earth made sure that human science would develop in ways that made contact nearly impossible. In the Crystal Dome, Elder Mordoon's story continued. The ancients vanished suddenly 3,000 years before your council was formed. Their empire crumbled in a single generation. We found their abandoned worlds and studied their ruins, trying to understand how they had been so powerful. Kefver. Crystal body showed swirling patterns of blue and silver. We found genetic markers in the ruins, DNA sequences that matched no known species. The ancients were not one race, but many, united under leaders who carried special genetic codes. The warrior gene, whispered Ambassador Yelena, her butterfly wings folding with worry. Yes, said Elder Morden. The warrior gene. It appeared in roughly 1% of the ancient population. Those who carried it became their generals, their explorers, their leaders. It gave them the ability to see patterns in combat that others could not, to make connections between different ideas that seemed impossible. High Commander Vexron moved restlessly in his patch of shadow. But the ancients are gone, dead for millennia. No, said Kefver, and his body flashed bright red. Not dead, hidden. When we found the third planet in Sector 7 Alpha, we discovered beings with DNA that matched the ancient ruins. The humans are new species. They are the descendants of the ancients, placed on that world and allowed to forget their past. The silence in the dome was complete now. Hundreds of alien beings absorbed this terrible knowledge. The humans carry the same genetic patterns, Keffer continued. The same potential for the warrior gene. We have watched them for 10,000 years, hoping they would evolve past their ancestors' aggressive nature. Instead, they show the same signs. The same curiosity about the stars, the same rapid advancement in technology, the same tactical thinking in their conflicts. Elder Morden's metal branches swayed slowly. The barrier was built not to protect the humans from us, but to protect us from them. We hoped that isolation would make them peaceful. We were wrong. Admiral Lisa Parker received another report about the strange energy readings at the edge of the solar system. This time, the patterns were stronger and more regular. Her scientists suggested sending a probe to investigate. She approved the mission, not knowing that she had just made the decision that would change the galaxy forever. In the Crystal Dome, an alarm began to sound. Kefver's body turned pure white with shock as he received an urgent message. The barrier is failing, he announced. The containment field will collapse within 72 standard cycles. The humans are about to discover that they are not alone. The universe was about to learn why the ancients had been feared across the galaxy and why their descendants had been kept sleeping for so long. Captain Vexter smiled as his ship moved through the darkness between stars. His teeth were sharp and yellow, and his 4 arms moved quickly over the control panels of his vessel. Behind him, 11 other ships followed in perfect formation. Each ship was sleek and black, built for speed and surprise attacks. Vexter was a Nephilim raider, and he had been waiting for this moment for months. His scouts had been watching the barrier around Sector 7 Alpha, measuring its strength, looking for weak spots. 3 days ago, they had found what they were looking for. A hole in the barrier, small but growing larger every hour. "Captain," said his second-in-command, a thin creature with 6 eyes and skin like gray leather. "The barrier opening is stable. We can pass through without detection." Vexter's smile grew wider. "Excellent. Signal the fleet. Today we become rich beyond our dreams." The Nephilim had raided dozens of worlds, but they had never found a planet as perfect as the 3rd world in Sector 7 Alpha. Their long-range scans showed a civilization that was advanced enough to have valuable technology, but primitive enough to be conquered easily. The humans had no energy shields, no plasma weapons, and their fastest ships used simple chemical rockets. "It will be like taking coins from sleeping children," Vexter said to himself as his fleet approached the edge of the solar system. "Lieutenant." Colonel Ryan Davis was having a routine day when everything changed. He was leading a training exercise near Jupiter with his squadron of 12 fighter craft. The ships were humanity's newest design, sleek and fast with powerful engines and advanced weapon systems. To Ryan, they represented the peak of human technology. He had no idea how primitive they would seem to anyone from outside his solar system. "All units, this is Eagle Leader," Ryan spoke into his radio. "Begin formation drill 7. Keep your spacing tight and watch your fuel consumption." The 12 human fighters moved through space in perfect coordination. Ryan felt proud as he watched his pilots perform the complex maneuvers. These men and women were the best that Earth had to offer, trained for months to fly these advanced machines. Then his radar screen exploded with new contacts. "Eagle Leader, this is Eagle 3, came the voice of Captain Amy Johnson over the radio. "I'm reading multiple unknown contacts approaching from the outer system. Configuration unknown. They're moving fast." Ryan looked at his screen and felt his heart skip a beat. 12 objects were approaching his position at incredible speed. They were too big to be asteroids and moving too fast to be natural objects. The shapes on his radar looked unlike anything in Earth's databases. "All units, form defensive positions," Ryan ordered. "Unknown contacts. This is Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Davis of the Earth Defense Force. Identify yourselves and state your intentions." The only answer was weapons fire. Vexter watched his targeting systems lock onto the primitive human ships. His weapons officer, a creature with tentacles instead of arms, worked quickly at the firing controls. "Target acquired, Captain." Their ships show no energy shielding, no defensive barriers of any kind. This will be over quickly. "Fire," Vexter commanded. 12 beams of red energy shot through space toward the human fighters. The Nephilim weapons were designed to cut through the strongest alien armor. Against unshielded human vessels, they should have been instantly deadly, but the humans did something unexpected. Ryan saw the energy beams coming and shouted into his radio, "All units, evasive maneuvers now. They're firing on us." What happened next surprised everyone, including the humans themselves. Instead of scattering in panic or flying in straight lines, like most species did when first encountering alien weapons, the human pilots moved in ways that seemed to predict where the next shots would come from. Captain Amy Johnson rolled her fighter into a spiral that took her exactly between 2 energy beams. Lieutenant Kevin Smith dove under his attacker's fire and came up behind the alien ship before it could turn to follow him. The other pilots spread out in a pattern that made it impossible for the aliens to target more than one ship at a time. "What are they doing?" Vexter's weapons officer asked in confusion. "They move like they have fought space battles before, but our intelligence said they were a planet-bound species." Vexter watched in growing alarm as 3 of his ships took damage. From human weapons. The human guns were primitive projectile weapons, simple bullets fired at high speed. They should not have been able to hurt Nephilim vessels with their advanced armor, but the humans were not firing at random. They aimed for weak spots in the alien ships, places where armor was thin or where important systems were located. Somehow, without ever seeing alien technology before, they knew exactly where to shoot. How do they know our ship designs? Vexter wondered aloud. The answer was something the Nephilim could not understand. Deep in human DNA, in genetic codes passed down from their ancient ancestors, was the ability to see patterns in combat that other species missed. The warrior gene was waking up in some of the human pilots, giving them knowledge they did not. Even though they possessed. Amy Johnson felt it first. As she chased an alien ship through the asteroid belt near Jupiter, her mind suddenly filled with tactical knowledge that seemed to come from nowhere. She could see the alien ship's weaknesses, as clearly as if someone had drawn them on a map. She knew where its engines were located, where its weapons were mounted, and where its armor was thinnest. Her next shot hit the alien ship's main power core. The vessel exploded in a ball of green fire. Eagle 3 to Eagle Leader, Amy reported, her voice steady despite her confusion. Target destroyed. I don't know how, but I could see exactly where to hit it. Kevin Smith was having the same experience. His mind filled with tactical information that made no sense, but felt completely true. He could predict where the alien ships would move before they moved. He could see their attack patterns before they formed them. This is Eagle 7, he called over the radio. These ships have a weakness in their rear shields. If we can get behind them and hit the glowing spot near their engines, they go down fast. Ryan Davis heard his pilots reporting impossible knowledge about alien technology they had never seen before. But he did not question it. In combat, you used every advantage you could find. All units, focus fire on the weak spots. Work in pairs. And watch each other's backs. The tide of battle turned quickly. The Nephilim had expected to destroy 12 primitive ships in a matter of minutes. Instead, they found themselves fighting opponents who fought with a skill and knowledge that seemed impossible. Vexter watched as ship after ship in his fleet was destroyed or damaged. The humans were not just defending themselves. They were hunting his vessels like experienced predators. "Captain, we should retreat," his second-in-command said nervously. "These humans fight like the stories of the ancients." "Impossible," Vexter snarled. "The ancients have been gone for thousands of years." But as he watched another of his ships explode under precise human fire, doubt began to grow in his mind. Major Chris Williams arrived with reinforcements just as the last Nephilim ships were trying to escape. His battalion included 6 heavy fighters and 2 boarding craft designed for capturing enemy vessels. "This is Rescue Leader to Eagle Squadron," Chris announced over the radio. "We're here to help. What's your status?" "Rescue Leader, this is Eagle Leader," Ryan replied. "We've destroyed 8 alien vessels and damaged 3 more. 2 are trying to run, but their engines are hurt. We could capture them if we move fast." Chris smiled grimly. "That's exactly what we're going to do. All units, prepare for boarding operations." The humans did not just fight back against the alien attack. They captured 2 Nephilim ships and took their crews prisoner. Within hours, human scientists were examining alien technology while human interrogators questioned the survivors. Dr. Helen Rodriguez found herself studying materials that should not have existed according to human physics. Metal that was stronger than anything on Earth but lighter than aluminum. Energy systems that produced power without fuel or waste. Computer systems that operated on principles human science had never imagined. "This changes everything," she said to her research team. "We're not alone in the universe, and the technology gap between us and them is enormous. But even as she spoke, human engineers were already figuring out how the alien systems worked. The same genetic gift that made human pilots into instant combat experts also helped human scientists understand alien technology with impossible speed. In the interrogation rooms, captured Nephilim raiders told their human questioners about the galaxy beyond Earth's solar system. They spoke of the Galactic Council, of hundreds of alien civilizations, and of the barrier that had kept humanity isolated for thousands of years. "Your species was supposed to be contained," one prisoner said to his human interrogator. "The barrier should have held for another 1,000 cycles. You were not supposed to develop space combat capability for centuries." The human interrogator, Colonel Patricia Lee, leaned back in her chair. "Well, it looks like someone made a mistake in their calculations. The last thing the captured Nephilim did before their rescue ships were destroyed was send a single emergency transmission toward the outer galaxy. The message was short, but carried terrible news for every civilization in the known universe. The news spread through the galaxy like fire through dry grass. In less than 48 hours, every major civilization knew about the battle near Jupiter. The Nephilim raiders had been destroyed by a species that was supposed to be primitive and harmless. Worse, the humans had captured alien technology and were already learning to use it. On the crystal world of Zarian Prime, Chancellor Zorthak paced nervously in his chamber made of living light. His ethereal form flickered with worry as he read the reports that came in from across the galaxy. The ethereal collective had been peaceful for over 5,000 years, but now they faced a threat they had hoped never to see again. "Summon the council," he ordered his aide. "We must reveal the truth about the humans before it is too late." Dr. Helen Rodriguez had not slept in 3 days. She stood in the largest laboratory that Earth had ever built, surrounded by alien technology that challenged everything she thought she knew about science. The captured Nephilim ships had been brought to a secret facility in the Nevada desert, where the best minds from every nation worked together to understand what they had found. The metal samples show atomic structures that should be impossible, she reported to the team of scientists gathered around her. Yet here they are, stronger than diamond but flexible like rubber. The energy cells produce power by manipulating space itself. Engineer Marcus Brown looked up from the alien computer he was studying. "The data systems are even stranger. They store information in quantum foam bubbles that exist in 11 dimensions. I don't understand how it works, but I can see the patterns." That was the mystery that puzzled everyone. Human scientists should not have been able to understand alien technology that was thousands of years more advanced than their own. Yet somehow they could see how it worked. The patterns made sense to them in ways that felt natural, like remembering something they had forgotten long ago. "It's the genetic inheritance," Dr. Rodriguez said quietly. "The DNA markers we found in the prisoners match genetic sequences in our own population. We're related to these ancient beings they keep talking about." General Patricia Lee, who had been promoted to lead Earth's new Department of Galactic Affairs, received a message that changed everything. It came through the quantum communication system they had built using captured alien technology. The message was in perfect English, even though it came from beings who had never met humans before. To the people of Earth, the message began. "We are the Galactic Council, representatives of 700 civilizations across the galaxy. We must speak with you about your true heritage and the danger you now face." The message included coordinates for a meeting place at the edge of the solar system and instructions for building a communication device that would allow real-time conversation across the vast distances of space. "Ma'am," said her aide captain, Nancy Green, "do you think we should trust them?" Patricia looked at the message again. "We don't have much choice. If there really are 700 civilizations out there, we need to know what we're dealing with." Captain Steve Wilson commanded the newly built ship X Starbreaker as it moved toward the meeting coordinates. The ship was a hybrid of human and alien technology, built in just 2 weeks by engineers who worked around the clock. It was faster and more powerful than anything humans had ever created. But compared to true Galactic-class vessels, it was still primitive. "Captain," reported his navigation officer, Lieutenant Julie Martinez, "we're approaching the coordinates. I'm detecting a massive structure ahead." What they found waiting for them was beyond anything they had imagined. A space station the size of a small moon hung in the darkness, its surface covered with lights that pulsed in patterns too complex for human eyes to follow. Hundreds of different types of ships were docked around it, each one representing a different alien civilization. "My God," whispered Colonel Danny Clark, the ship's military commander. "How many species are out there?" The answer came when they were invited aboard the station. The main meeting hall was enormous, with sections designed for creatures that breathed different gases, lived in different gravity levels, and existed in different states of matter. Some aliens looked almost human, while others were so strange that human minds could barely process what they were seeing. Keffer met the human delegation at the airlock. His crystal body glowed with nervous energy as he looked at the 5 humans who would represent their entire species in this historic meeting. "Welcome," he said, his words translated by technology that made him sound like he was speaking perfect English. "I am Keffer, current speaker for the Galactic Council. We have much to discuss." General Patricia Lee led the human delegation. Behind her came Dr. Helen Rodriguez, Captain Steve Wilson, Engineer Marcus Brown, and Colonel Danny Clark. They were the first humans to set foot in a place where dozens of alien civilizations met as equals. "Before we begin," Keffer said as he led them through corridors filled with impossible sights, "you must understand that what we tell you will change how you see yourselves and your place in the universe." The main council chamber was a sphere of crystal floating in space. Inside, representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in sections designed for their specific needs. Some breathed methane, others lived in tanks of liquid, and a few existed as pure energy contained in special fields. Elder Morden was there, his ancient tree-like form towering over the other beings. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of millennia. "Humans of Earth," he began, "you are not what you believe yourselves to be. Your species did not evolve on your world. You were placed there by beings who ruled the galaxy long before any of our current civilizations existed." Dr. Rodriguez felt her heart racing. "Are you saying we're aliens? That we came from somewhere else?" "Not aliens," said Chancellor Zorthek, his ethereal form brightening. "You are the descendants of the ancients, the most powerful race that ever lived. 10,000 years ago, they controlled half the galaxy. Then they vanished, leaving only ruins and legends." The human delegation listened in stunned silence as the truth was revealed. The ancients had not been destroyed by war or disease. They had simply left, taking their most advanced technology with them and seeding new worlds with their genetic material. "Earth was one of those worlds," Keffer explained. "The ancients placed your ancestors there and built the barrier to protect you while you developed naturally. They wanted to see if their descendants could evolve beyond the aggressive nature that had made them so feared." "Feared?" asked Colonel Clark. "Why were they feared?" Elder Morden's branches swayed slowly. "Because they possessed something that no other species has ever had. The ability to adapt to any situation, to learn from any enemy, and to turn any disadvantage into a strength. They conquered advanced civilizations using primitive weapons and tactics that seemed impossible." "The warrior gene," added Keffer. "A genetic sequence that appears in roughly 1% of any population descended from the ancients. Those who carry it become natural leaders, brilliant tacticians, and unstoppable in combat." Captain Wilson thought about the battle near Jupiter, how his pilots had known exactly how to fight aliens they had never seen before. That's what happened to our fighters. They knew things they shouldn't have known. "Yes, said Chancellor Zorthek. "The gene is activating in your population. Combat with alien forces has awakened abilities that lay dormant for 10,000 years. Dr. Rodriguez had been studying the genetic samples from the captured Nephilim. How many humans carry this gene? Our estimates suggest between 50 and 70 million of your current population," Kethfer replied. "As more humans encounter alien technology in combat situations, more will awaken to their true potential." The implications were staggering. Earth had a population of 8 billion people, and at least 50 million of them carried genetic codes that could make them tactical geniuses and natural warriors. "What do you want from us?" General Lee asked. "We want to prevent another galactic war," Elder Morden said sadly. "The ancients conquered worlds not through cruelty, but through their incredible ability to adapt and overcome. They were not evil, but they were unstoppable. Every civilization that fought them was defeated. So you want us to stay on Earth?" Colonel Clark said, "To keep the barrier in place." "The barrier is failing," Kethfer admitted. "The attack by the Nephilim created too much damage. Within a few months, it will collapse completely. When that happens, every civilization in the galaxy will know that the descendants of the ancients have awakened." Chancellor Zorthek's form flickered with worry. "Some will try to destroy you before you become too powerful. Others will try to ally with you for protection. Either way, the galaxy will never be the same." Captain Wilson looked around the chamber at the hundreds of alien beings. "How many of you see us as a threat?" "Most of us," Elder Morden said honestly. "We have lived in peace for thousands of years because the ancients were gone. Now their children have returned, and we remember the old stories of worlds that fell to their advance." Dr. Rodriguez stood up from her chair. "We're not conquerors. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to explore and learn. That is what your ancestors said at first," Kethfer replied. "They began as explorers and traders." General Patricia Lee stood in the war room deep beneath the mountains of Colorado. Around her, the best military minds from every nation on Earth studied star charts and tactical reports. 6 months had passed since the meeting with the Galactic Council, and everything had changed. "Ma'am," reported Colonel Danny Clark, pointing to the large display screen on the wall. "We're tracking 47 alien fleets moving toward our sector. Some are clearly military formations. Others appear to be diplomatic missions. And the rest?" Patricia asked, though she already knew the answer would not be good. "Unknown intent, but they're all heavily armed." The warning from the Galactic Council had been accurate. News of humanity's awakening had spread across the galaxy, and every major civilization was sending representatives to deal with what they saw as the return of the ancients. Some came seeking alliance. Others came seeking to destroy humanity before it could become a threat. Many came simply to see if the legends were true. Captain Steve Wilson received his orders as he stood on the bridge of the ECS Starbreaker. The ship had been upgraded again using alien technology captured from 3 more raids. Pirates and scavengers had been testing human defenses for months, and each battle resulted in more captured alien equipment for human scientists to study. "Captain," said his communications officer, Lieutenant Julie Martinez, "we have authorization to proceed to the Zarian mining colony at Kef 7. Our mission is to secure the barrier generator stations before they can be used against us." Steve nodded grimly. The plan was bold and dangerous. The mining colony contained the massive machines that had maintained the barrier around Earth for thousands of years. If those machines could be captured and studied, humanity might learn how to build their own barriers and defenses. "All hands, prepare for jump to hyperspace," Steve announced over the ship's communication system. "We're going hunting." Dr. Helen Rodriguez had become Earth's leading expert on alien technology, but even she was amazed by how quickly human engineers adapted to each new discovery. In the 6 months since first contact, Humanity had built a fleet of 30 ships that combined human innovation with alien science. The fusion is remarkable, she explained to engineer Marcus Brown as they watched technicians install crystal-based weapon systems into human-built ship hulls. We're not just copying alien technology, we're improving it. Marcus nodded as he studied the energy readings from the new weapons. The crystal arrays are 30% more efficient than the original Zarian designs. Somehow, our engineers found ways to optimize systems that the aliens had been using for thousands of years. That was the pattern that worried the galaxy. Humans did not just learn from alien technology. They made it better. Every ship they captured, every device they studied, became the foundation for improvements that exceeded the original designs. Commander Julie Martinez led a squadron of 6 fighters toward the Zarian mining colony. Her ships were sleek and fast, built using human engineering principles but powered by alien energy cores. The combination made them faster and more maneuverable than anything the galaxy had seen before. "This is Reaper Leader to all units," she spoke into her radio. "Remember, we want to capture those generator stations intact. No heavy weapons unless absolutely necessary." The mining colony of KEF-7 floated in space around a small asteroid. It was a massive structure, built by the crystalline Zarian species to harvest rare minerals from the asteroid's core. But its real value lay in the barrier generators, hidden within its depths. The Zarian defenders were ready for the human attack. Their crystal-based ships formed defensive lines around the colony, energy weapons charged and waiting. They had heard the stories of human tactics and had prepared every countermeasure their military minds could imagine. They were not prepared for what actually happened. Colonel Danny Clark commanded the Marine assault units aboard 6 boarding craft. As his ships approached the mining colony, he felt the familiar sensation of tactical knowledge flooding his mind. The warrior gene was active in him, and it showed him things that should have been impossible to know. "The crystalline ships have a weakness in their power distribution network," he announced to his assault teams. "If we can hit the junction points where their energy conduits meet, their entire defensive grid will collapse." His pilots, many of whom also carried the awakened gene, saw the same patterns. They did not need to study the alien ships or analyze their construction. The knowledge came to them naturally, like remembering something they had always known. Battle for KEF-7 began with a coordinated strike that the Zarian defenders never saw coming. Human fighters moved through their formations like they had been studying Zarian tactics for years. Every shot was perfectly placed. Every maneuver was precisely timed. Captain Amy Johnson, now commanding her own squadron, led the attack on the main defensive line. Her 6 fighters moved in a pattern that seemed chaotic to the Zarian observers, but was actually a complex tactical formation that their crystal minds could not understand or predict. "Target the energy nodes," she called to her pilots. "Remember, we're not trying to destroy them. We want to disable their weapons without damaging the colony itself." The human attack was surgical in its precision. Each Zarian ship was disabled with minimal damage, its crew captured rather than killed. Within 4 hours, the mining colony's defenses had been neutralized and human Marines were boarding the facility. Inside the colony, Colonel Clark led his assault teams through corridors made of living crystal. The Zarian workers and technicians offered little resistance. They were miners and engineers, not soldiers, and they had never seen combat like this. "Remember," Clark told his teams, "we're here to secure the barrier generators, not to harm civilians. Treat the Zarian workers with respect, and they'll cooperate with us." The barrier generators were located deep within the asteroid, in chambers carved from solid rock and lined with crystal matrices. The machines were enormous, each one the size of a city block, humming with energy that bent space itself. Engineer Marcus Brown studied the generators with wonder and growing understanding. "These machines create dimensional folds in space-time," he explained to his team. They don't just block signals or ships. They actually hide entire sections of space from the rest of the universe. Dr. Helen Rodriguez arrived with the second wave of technicians and scientists. As she examined the crystal technology, she felt the same genetic knowledge awakening in her mind that had guided the combat pilots and Marines. "I can see how to improve these," she said in amazement. "The energy efficiency could be increased by 40% if we modify the crystal alignment and add feedback loops to the power distribution system." Within days, human engineers were not just studying the barrier generators but redesigning them. The improvements they made were so significant that the Zarian engineers, who had built the original machines, could barely understand how they worked. But the real breakthrough came when the humans realized they could reverse the generators' function. Instead of hiding things from the galaxy, they could be modified to hide things from specific enemies while remaining visible to allies. Captain Nancy Green, who had been promoted to lead the diplomatic corps, established the first human embassy on Kef 7. Her message to the Galactic Council was transmitted using the colony's own communication systems. To the Galactic Council and all member civilizations, she broadcast, "Humanity claims no desire for conquest or domination. We seek only our rightful place in the galactic community. We have secured the Zarian colony not to destroy it, but to protect it from those who would use its technology against peaceful worlds." The message was carefully crafted, but its underlying meaning was clear. Humanity had captured one of the galaxy's most important strategic facilities in less than a day. They had not destroyed it or enslaved its population. Instead, they had improved it and offered to share its benefits with their allies. The response from the galaxy was immediate and divided. Some civilizations saw the message as proof that humans could be reasonable partners. Others saw it as evidence that the humans were even more dangerous than their ancestors had been. On the crystal world of Zarian Prime, Chancellor Zorthak received reports of the colony's capture with growing alarm. The humans had not just defeated Zarian forces. They had done it while showing mercy to prisoners and civilians. They had captured technology and immediately improved it. Most frighteningly, they had offered to share their improvements with other civilizations. "They are following the same pattern as the ancients," he said to his advisors. "First they demonstrate their power, then they offer partnership. Finally, they become indispensable to those who accept their help." Elder Mordun, attending the emergency council session through quantum communication, shared the growing worry. "The humans are not cruel conquerors. They are something more dangerous. They are improvers. They see everything that can be made better, and they cannot resist making it so." "And what is wrong with improvement?" asked a young council member, a being from a species that had not existed during the time of the ancients. "Because when you improve everything, you eventually control everything," Elder Mordun replied. "The ancients began as helpful allies to dozens of civilizations. 1 year after first contact, the galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. President Sandra White stood in the new command center on Europa, Jupiter's moon, looking out at a view that would have been impossible just months before. Dozens of ships from different worlds floated in formation around the human base, their crews working together on projects that benefited everyone. "Ma'am," reported Admiral Tony Clark, "we now have formal alliances with 63 civilizations. The Zarian Collective has agreed to share their crystal technology in exchange for our engineering improvements. The Ethereal Collective wants our help designing new energy systems. Even some of the smaller species are asking for human advisors." Sandra nodded, but she could see the worry in Tony's eyes. The alliances were growing faster than anyone had expected, and each new partnership brought new responsibilities. Humanity was becoming the center of a growing coalition of worlds, whether they wanted to be or not. Dr. Helen Rodriguez worked in the largest research facility humans had ever built, a massive station that orbited Saturn. Scientists from dozens of species worked together, sharing knowledge and building technologies that none of them could have created alone. The results were remarkable, but they also confirmed everyone's fears about human nature. "Every project we touch becomes better," she explained to Dr. Richard Taylor, the new head of the Human-Alien Cooperation Initiative. "We can't help ourselves. When we see something that could be improved, we improve it. When we see a problem that could be solved, we solve it." Richard studied the reports from the various research teams. Human innovations had increased energy efficiency across their allied fleets by an average of 40%. Human tactical advice had helped peaceful species defend themselves against pirates and raiders. Human medical knowledge had saved thousands of alien lives. "The problem is that our allies are becoming dependent on us," Richard said quietly. "They're starting to need human knowledge to maintain their own technology. We're not conquering them, but we're making them rely on us." The situation worried the Galactic Council, but it terrified the Dominion of Cathara. Supreme Commander Thexvel stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive warship destroyer of worlds, watching as his fleet of 3,000 ships moved toward human space. "The humans have corrupted 63 civilizations in less than 1 year," he announced to his officers. "Their ancestors took decades to build such influence. These descendants are even more dangerous than the legends warned." The Kitharan fleet was the largest military force assembled in over 1,000 years. Ships from a dozen different star systems had joined the Dominion in their mission to stop humanity before the humans could build another ancient empire. They believed they had enough firepower to destroy every human ship and orbital facility in the galaxy. They were about to learn why believing and knowing were two different things. Admiral Karen Johnson commanded the human defense fleet from the bridge of the ECS Liberator, a massive ship built using technology from 6 different alien civilizations. The vessel was a masterpiece of hybrid engineering, combining human innovation with the best ideas from across the galaxy. "Admiral," reported her tactical officer, Commander Bill Harper, "long-range sensors are tracking a massive fleet approaching our territory. Estimated arrival time is 18 hours. Ship count is approximately 3,000 vessels." Karen felt the familiar surge of tactical knowledge flooding her mind. The warrior gene was fully active in her now, and it showed her patterns and possibilities that would have taken normal strategists months to calculate. "Signal all allied fleets," she ordered. "Tell them it's time to see if our new coalition can work together in battle." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Ships from the Zarian Collective, the Ethereal Collective, the Void Dwellers, and dozens of smaller civilizations began moving toward the battle zone. Within hours, humanity's allies had assembled a fleet of over 1,500 ships, but numbers were not the real advantage. The real advantage was something that had never existed in galactic history: a multi-species fleet that fought as a single coordinated force. Captain Nancy Green, now serving as the coalition's diplomatic liaison, broadcast a message to the approaching Kitharan fleet. "To the ships of the Dominion of Cathara, this is Captain Green of the Human Allied Coalition. You are entering space claimed by 64 allied civilizations. State your intentions or withdraw immediately. Supreme Commander." Thexvel laughed when he heard the message. 64 civilizations? The humans think their collection of weak allies will save them. They will learn that military strength is the only thing that matters in the galaxy. His response was to order his fleet to attack formation and increase speed toward the human positions. The Battle of Proxima Centauri began at dawn on a Tuesday Earth time. The Kitharan fleet dropped out of hyperspace, expecting to face a desperate defense by primitive human ships supported by their reluctant alien allies. Instead, they found themselves facing something that had never existed before: a truly integrated, multi-species battle fleet that fought with perfect coordination. Commander Julie Martinez led the first wave of fighters, A mixed squadron of human, Zarian, and ethereal ships that moved together like they had been training as a unit for years. The human pilots shared their tactical insights through quantum communication links, while their alien wingmates provided covering fire with weapons that humans had helped them improve. "All units, this is Flight Leader Martinez," she announced, over the Coalition Communication Network. "Remember, we're not just defending human space. We're defending the idea that different civilizations can work together as equals." The Kithran fleet had prepared for human tactics based on the historical records of ancient battles. They expected aggressive frontal attacks, clever use of terrain, and the rapid adaptation that had made the ancients so feared. They were not prepared for humans who fought alongside allies, sharing their tactical advantages and multiplying their effectiveness through cooperation. Colonel Danny Clark commanded a mixed force of human marines and Zarian crystal warriors as they boarded disabled Kithran ships. The combination was devastating. Human tactical knowledge guided the boarding operations while Zarian crystal armor protected the assault teams from energy weapons. "The Kithrans are good fighters," he reported to Admiral Johnson, "but they're not used to facing coordinated attacks from multiple species. Their defenses are designed to fight one type of enemy at a time." That was the fatal flaw in the Kithran strategy. They had built their military to dominate individual civilizations, but they had never faced an enemy that combined the strengths of dozens of different species into a single fighting force. The battle lasted 14 hours, and when it ended, the Kithran fleet was completely defeated. Over 2,000 of their ships had been destroyed or captured, while the coalition forces had lost less than 300 vessels. But the real victory was not military. It was the message that the battle sent to the rest of the galaxy. Chancellor Zorthik watched the battle reports with amazement and growing understanding. "The humans have done something that we thought was impossible," he said to the emergency session of the Galactic Council. "They have created a truly unified multi-species military force, not through conquest or domination, but through cooperation." Elder Morgan's ancient voice carried new hope as he spoke to the assembly. "Perhaps we were wrong about the humans. Their ancestors, the ancients, built an empire through strength and intimidation. But these descendants are building something different. They are building a community." The defeat of the Kithran fleet marked the beginning of a new age in galactic history. Within months, over 200 civilizations had requested membership in what became known as the Galactic Alliance. The old council structure was replaced by a democratic assembly, where every member species had an equal voice. President Sandra White addressed the first meeting of the Galactic Alliance from the new capital on Europa. Representatives from hundreds of worlds listened as she outlined the principles that would guide their cooperation. "We gather not as conquerors and conquered, but as partners in building a better galaxy," she said. "Humanity offers our knowledge and innovation freely, just as we hope to learn from the wisdom and experience of our allies." Dr. Helen Rodriguez, now serving as the Alliance's Director of Scientific Cooperation, watched as research teams from across the galaxy worked together on projects that would have been impossible for any single civilization. The fusion of human adaptability with alien knowledge was producing breakthroughs in medicine, energy, and space travel that benefited everyone. "We're not just sharing technology," she explained to a gathering of Alliance scientists. "We're creating new ways of thinking about problems. When you combine human innovation with Zarian precision, ethereal creativity, and void dweller patience, you get solutions that none of us could reach alone." Engineer Marcus Brown stood in the orbital shipyards around Jupiter, watching as crews from a dozen different species worked together to build vessels that represented the best of all their civilizations. The ships were faster, stronger, and more efficient than anything that had ever been created before.